Good morning. I'm pleased to announce today that Alberta is taking steps to enable captive insurance. We're the only second jurisdiction in Canada, following BC, to allow this alternate insurance option. Current global insurance supply constraints are making it difficult for many commercial entities to get adequate coverage at a reasonable price. As a result, many companies and entities will benefit from options beyond the traditional insurance market to be able to continue their operations in Alberta. Captive insurance is one of those options. Allowing alternative insurance options supports an increase in capital investment and job creation in the province. Ultimately, this will help diversify the economy and benefit a wide variety of different companies and sectors to the benefit of all Albertans. Captive insurance companies, or captives, are also expected to contribute to job creation in sophisticated finance and insurance positions. And allowing this business activity in the province means Alberta can now compete with other captive insurance jurisdictions, attracting capital and businesses to Alberta. So what is captive insurance? Captive insurance is an in-house insurance solution for companies. A captive insurance company is a company created and owned by a parent corporation or association and provides insurance to the parent or members of the association. As an example, the College of Veterinarians in British Columbia has a subsidiary called the BC Veterinary Captive Insurance Company that provides insurance for its members. As an alternative to traditional insurance, captive insurance options are usually sought by companies in difficult markets where they have limited insurance options due to pricing and capacity constraints. These are precisely the market conditions Alberta and many other jurisdictions around the globe are facing currently as a result of sustained losses over several recent years for property and casualty insurers. These market conditions significantly impact a company's ability to take on more risk, affecting overall insurance supply in the market. With limited availability in the insurance market, it's very difficult for some companies to find adequate insurance at reasonable prices. This is especially true for many of Alberta's energy companies, as global insurance capacity is on the decline. This is impacting their ability to create jobs and invest in projects across the province, and these prices in some cases are downloaded onto consumers. Our legislation will allow any business entity seeking alternative insurance coverage to set up a captive right here in Alberta. This means that Alberta companies or any Canadian company that can benefit from alternative insurance options will no longer have to look abroad. We believe that those most likely to take advantage of this opportunity include, of course, energy companies, large construction companies, members of an association such as an industry group, utilities, project partnerships or economic development corporations, large public entities. However, this option is available to any business, industry group, or not-for-profit in Alberta who wishes to explore it. Other examples from British Columbia include seniors care centres, BC Hydro, Canadian Blood Services, Hyundai Auto Canada, an association of roofing contractors, and others. It's no secret that some U.S. states and some offshore locations are established captive jurisdictions. However, there is certainty in and an Alberta advantage when it comes to setting up a captive here. Alberta's corporate tax rate is now 30% lower than the next lowest provincial rate, and the combined federal-provincial rate is lower than that of 44 U.S. states. Alberta has no financial institutions capital tax, no payroll tax, and unlike other jurisdictions across Canada, does not impose any sales tax on premiums paid for insurance. Additionally, Alberta's existing regulatory environment for insurance is well known and highly respected across Canada. Our province's financial services sector is highly skilled and diversified and well positioned to support the growth of a sophisticated insurance segment. All of these factors make Alberta an attractive jurisdiction for doing business. Our goal is to help Alberta businesses insure their risks. And that's why today we're laying the groundwork for establishing captive insurers right here in Alberta. Business entities looking for alternative insurance options can now consider setting up shop in the province. The Captive Insurance Companies Act will enable additional options in the midst of a current hard insurance market when some of our key economic sectors are unable to move forward on significant projects or investments because of insurance limitations. And it will position Alberta as the place to be for insurance businesses for years to come, bolstering the expertise and diversity of Alberta's entire financial services sector and positioning our economy for future growth and diversity. Thank you. I'm happy to take some questions.
We are now going to go to media Q&A. You'll have one question and one follow-up, either two off the top or one question and one follow-up following the response. We'll start with those in the room and then we'll go to the phone. Before you begin, if you wouldn't mind, please identifying yourself with your name and your outlet. That would be great.
Hi, Janet French from the CBC. So this type of insurance was not allowed before in Alberta. It's not offered in most of Canada. What's the rationale for why it is not offered in most places and why it was not offered in Alberta previously?
Well, hi, Janet. That's a fair question. And right now, what we have in Alberta, across Canada, and really a global phenomenon, and that is a very hard insurance market. So historically, I don't believe there would have been the demand for a captive insurance option like there is today. So we really believe that there's additional demand today, far more demand now than perhaps there was 5, 10, or 15, 20 years ago. The other part of this is as we take a look at diversifying our economy, positioning the Alberta economy for disproportionate investment attraction and economic growth, we're looking at financial services and what we can do to grow that sector. And so by enabling captives, we believe that will help attract investment and growth in the financial services sector in the province and assist in diversifying our economy.
Thank you. Do you have a follow-up?
I do. So oil and gas companies have abandoned sites in this province that are worth hundreds of millions of dollars to clean up for the environmental impact. Why would you allow these same companies to insure their own environmental liabilities?
Well, a captive insurance entity will be regulated in the province in a similar manner to traditional insurance companies. It will be regulated under the Superintendent of Insurance. There will be capitalization requirements, solvency benchmarks that they will have to meet. And so there will be a very adequate supervision over these captives as they serve their parents. It really will not make any, I don't believe it will have any impact on environmental liabilities that oil and gas companies have currently or will have in the future.
Thank you. We'll go to the next question in the room.
Shailan Skolsky, CTV News. I'm just wondering, when you talk about those regulations, can you give us any more insight into what those regulations might look like, especially given the level of risk that these captives might be taking on, specifically in regards to what kind of sureties and information financially they would have to provide that they're able to take on this level of risk?
Sure. I don't have, I can't talk definitively about the regulations today. We're developing the regulatory package right now. So stay tuned. We expect that the regulations will be rolled out likely in the spring of 2022. But I can assure you that there will be sufficient regulations, again, to ensure adequate capital for these captives, appropriate solvency benchmarks. And we're taking a look at other jurisdictions such as British Columbia, Vermont, and other jurisdictions in the world for appropriate capitalization and regulatory requirements.
Do you have a follow-up?
Yes, yeah, just as a follow-up, can you clarify the government's role in all of this and whether or not any government money, aside from that going into the actual regulation of all of it, will go into this?
Sure, happy to. Government's role here is simply establishing the legislative and regulatory framework to enable captive insurance companies to be set up in the province. The province is not supporting this effort financially in any other way.
Thank you. We're now going to go to the phones. Operator, can you please put through the first caller?
Tom Ross, 660 News. Does this plan do anything to lower insurance rates for myself or other Albertans who are continuing to pay high rates for personal vehicles?
In terms of personal vehicle insurance, auto insurance. We, as you probably recall, we brought in Bill 41 about a year ago, which made some substantial improvements to our whole approach in the province to automobile insurance. Right now, we're encouraged with what we see in terms of results to that change in legislation and regulation. We're seeing automobile insurance rates beginning to stabilize, in some cases come down. So there may be instances where certain entities could include their automobile insurance under a captive, but that would be the applicability of captive insurance to automobile insurance.
Do you have a follow-up?
No, that's all right.
Thank you. Operator, can you please put through the next caller?
Ashley Joanno, Post Media.
Hi. My first question is sort of a basic one. Do businesses that take advantage of this legislation actually have to be in Alberta?
The answer is no. They could be other Canadian corporations or even other global corporations, but they have to domicile their captive here in the province and actually physically set up shop in the province of Alberta. But we expect that we will attract interest, certainly from across the country and perhaps continent.
Thank you. Do you have a follow-up?
Okay. Yeah, and I know other people have touched on this, but I want to ask a similar question another time. What do you say to people who suggest that this seems like a risky proposition, that you've got massive projects like pipeline that would be covered using now only a small pool of people? In the event of a catastrophe, aren't you increasing the odds that the government will have to step in?
Well, no, that's where our regulatory framework will be all important. Again, there will be adequate, sufficient capitalization requirements, solvency benchmarks that these captives will have to meet. And again, we'll be looking to other jurisdictions for examples and historical data sets to establish those regulations. But I'm not concerned that we're going to create additional financial risk for Alberta taxpayers or for the government of Alberta.
Thank you. Operator, can you please put through the next caller?
Catherine Krakowski, Alberta Today.
Thanks for taking my question, Minister. So I understand the type of insurance coverage will be spelled out in regulation, but I'm wondering, can you provide an example of the type of coverage that may be hard to get from a traditional insurance company or that's not offered? Like, what's the type of insurance that people will use this captive insurance corporation for?
Well, I'll provide an example, and there could be many. The Alberta Automobile Dealers Association are very excited about having the option for captive in the province. The Alberta Forestry Products Association is certainly excited about this opportunity. But here's an example that would probably be at least worth an investigation. Right now in the news, and we're certainly experiencing in Alberta, school boards are struggling with the high cost of premiums for facility insurance. And I expect that it would be useful for the Alberta School Boards Association to perhaps consider the merits of setting up a captive where that captive could then, in fact, offer insurance back to individual school boards and divisions.
And to follow up, or a separate question, I guess, you mentioned that this will help diversify the economy, and I'm wondering if it's just the increased financial people, or is there some kind of emerging industry that is hard to insure because it's new and risky that you're hoping to attract here? How does this diversify the economy?
Sure. I mean, firstly, this will offer a made in Alberta insurance solution or option for many Alberta companies or businesses, entities that are actively operating in the province. So from that standpoint, we believe it will really support economic recovery and growth. But we also believe that this is a way to expand our financial services offering or offerings in the province of Alberta by, again, enabling companies to set up a captive here in the province. And so from that standpoint, we would expect that, again, that Alberta entities will be looking at this option, and perhaps some of them moving forward, which will, again, grow our financial services sector. It will result in I expect good paying jobs and career opportunities for accountants, for lawyers, for actuaries and others who would be active in this field.
Thank you. Operator, can you please put through the next caller?
Michelle Bellefontaine, CBC.
Hi, Minister. I wanted to ask you sort of more of a philosophical question, if you will. Your government's ideology is all about the free market, right? Let the market determine, business opportunities, things like that. Why are you intervening in the market, the insurance market, which is essentially what this is, to make it cheaper for businesses to do business here?
Michelle, I would actually view this as a move in the other direction. I believe we're just enabling another option for businesses to consider and to move forward with if it's in their best interest. I actually see this as the government providing fewer constraints to an insurance sector right now, to an economy that right now needs additional insurance options in many cases.
Michelle, do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, I do. But the justification that we were given for this during the test briefing was that it's very hard for certain types of industries to get insurance, and that means that the costs are quite high. So presumably it's not just a question of getting access to insurance, it's also to bring down costs. So again, I will ask you, why is the government intervening in the insurance market to benefit industry?
Well, again, I would suggest that we're actually providing additional freedom into the insurance industry and additional options for Alberta companies and entities, and in fact, Canadian and global entities who might need another option at a time when we see a very hard insurance market across the country, which is resulting in very, very high premiums, and in some cases, insurance products that are demanded but simply not offered, as again insurance companies pull some products back. And so again, we're really enabling additional freedom in our economy and in the insurance industry here. We have a great traditional insurance sector in the province, a sector that is active and is growing, and a sector that works hard to provide insurance solutions for their customers. This will just provide an additional option, and it will make sense for some entities.
Operator, can you please put through the next question?
There are no further questions on the line at this time.
Wonderful. Thank you. Sorry.